Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the McConaughey at YouTube with another Q&A session. Now, as my studio and workplace is being put together, it's an absolute mess and I'm very short on time. This is going to be an audio only session. We have a couple of questions, not too many, thank God for everything that's going on. So we shall cut straight into it. First, we have a request by ThePoorBastardsGuideToModeling. He would like a shout out and mention. He is starting out tutorial review based military channel, looking at the cheaper aspects of tools, products, supplies in finishing your kits. And he looks like he is attempting to jump onto the more affordable models that are on the market, probably some of the older stuff too. What I really like is he subscribes to the use of cheap eBay airbrushes, and funnily enough, watching one of the videos, he actually utilizes an airbrush that even I've rejected. So his content is extremely interesting. I would have a look at it if it sticks. Definitely subscribe to him, but checking it out is definitely worthwhile. I have not seen any science fiction or Gundam content on there yet for the majority of my guys, so just take that on board. All of that aside, Alex asks, which is the best paint for Gundam and which brand is most used in competitions? Now, the official brand of paint that is paired with Gundam kits and is mentioned in the colour guide is Gunzi's Mr. Colour range, which is the lacquer paints. You get the actual colour chips or numbers and what mix to get the proper colour. Occasionally in the past, Mr. Colour has actually released box sets of officially mixed Gundam colours with little pictures of Gundams on it. And at the moment, they've got a small synthetic range of about 12 or so colours that has the loose RX-78 yellow, red, blue, white, some Zaku greens and bits and pieces. You could buy that currently and actively very easily. The synthetics are a bit more expensive, though pigment density is quite high and it does give a nice vibrant colour. All the other lacquers are also very suitable, from the bright colour pastel colours all the way to the military drab colours. They require just standard lacquer thinner to thin, or Mr. Hobby levelling thinner, though the smell of lacquers can be quite noxious, and so yeah, it is very well worthwhile investing in. I highly recommend it as it is the easiest paint to thin and run through an airbrush without complications in cleaning. It also adheres very nicely to the model. It's just the very strong smell that's the biggest problem, so a proper use of an extractor booth in a garage or a part of the house where the fumes can't go everywhere, and compare it with a mask. If you live in Australia, the Scale Model Supply SMS brand of paints, main range of colours is pre-mixed with Gundam chips and colouring in mind, and it uses straight out of the bottle pre-thinned. Put that in your airbrush and the way you go. That is what I'm currently using at the moment, as well as a little bit of Mr. Colour. If you don't have access to that, your other acrylics or enamels by other hobby brands is also acceptable. I would avoid the polyurethane stuff. They are probably the hardest paint to use through an airbrush. Some people have been successful with it, and even if you can get a good coat on an articulated model that snaps together and pulls apart, polyurethane doesn't quite adhere to kits and either flakes off or chips off at a later date. So definitely something that's as durable as humanly possible. If you hand paint, Enamel would be the best for competitions, as they are slow drying and self-leveling. If you use rattle cans, back to lacquer, and you can get large cans of lacquer for automotive painting or graffiti art. They're a tad expensive, though you get a large quantity of it, and it's very, very easy to use, opposed to the hobby branded stuff that's a lot smaller and expensive. Yellow Thunder asks, how come you don't build any Dragon 70-second kits? I know they are rather expensive, but they're rather renowned for the detail and accuracy. They also do many obscure subjects as well. This is an excellent question, Yellow Thunder. I have built and shown 2 Dragon kits on this channel. One was a German paper panzer early war tank. That was really, really good. It was specially designed for 70-second, glued together nicely, not too many parts, and the detail was quite fantastic. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Another one I did was a German Nashorn. Now, this kit was a huge problem, burnt me out, and I did not enjoy the process at all. This kit was formerly a 35th scale model kit, and the tooling was shrunk down for 70-second. The parts was absolutely stupidly too small, and took a very long time to align, build right, and the instructions was a complete mess. It was very hard to follow, and not an enjoyable kit. Though, mind you, your open cover SPGs are generally always difficult, and that as a Dragon to boot just absolutely did my head in. So knowing that Dragon is a bit of a minefield, that some of their kits are scaled down 35th and some of them are specially designed for 70-second, when I'm buying armor kits at the hobby shop, it's generally, oh, the box art's cool, I don't have one of those, I'll grab it. There's no research involved, and no one really considers researching armor kits before they buy. Mind you, if you do, Henk of Holland is an amazing website where he takes content from a lot of videos, blogs, channels, release pictures, Shizuoka, all that sort of thing, and compiles them in one place. So you get to see the instructions, a finished model, people's reviews, what the runners look like. It gives you an idea what brands you're playing with in that scale. So with my experience of Dragon, I do not buy too many of their 70-second kits. I do, however, buy all of their Imperial Japan stuff. I've got the whole collection of those kits. I do really, really enjoy them. Lots of decals, lots of etch, lots of detail. I had them set aside for a while as I wanted to improve in airbrushing and painting to get all of those camouflage lines freehand airbrushed. I feel that I'm definitely capable of doing that now, but I've got so many projects on the back burner, it's going to take a while until I get to them. So Imperial Japanese tanks by Dragon is going to be a feature on this channel at some time in the future. In the way of buying more of their kits, anything that they've previously had in 35th, I am definitely not touching. And that's just from that poor experience. It's also that in their 35th range, as a complete side note from this question, I find it very amusing that they do every possible and potential tooling of the Tiger and the Panzer IV that exists. It's the amount of releases of another Tiger or another Panzer IV is just crazy. That why would somebody want to collect that many variants of the same tank is beyond me, no matter how obscure that is. It's sort of like it's targeting a very OCD, uber rivet canning element of the community, and I always find ample reasons to make jokes about Dragon kits. But that's just light-hearted. I know someone out there is doing research and going, I want to depict something from this exact battle, and I need to use this exact Panzer IV without doing any modifications or buying resin aftermarket parts. So that's pretty good, but from a marketing set of selling kits, that just has me a bit fascinated. So Dragon all set aside. Second last question by H4D1. Is the KK Moon airbrush with compressor worth it? And also, what are the materials needed to make a diorama? So we've got two halves. First, KK Moon airbrushes is pretty much, KK Moon is just another factory like Heising, so they do the same run of airbrushes. Though the airbrush they specialise in is a slightly longer version of the H0.3mm. It has an air adjusting valve post the paint cup, and there is a large section, the very front of the whole nozzling assembly can be removed, showing the line that has the paint and needle going through, and the smaller line that siphons the hole for the air with the small O-ring. I really dislike airbrushes that open at that point, as we've seen in a previous Hone Your Airbrush Skills video. Anything happens to that seal and your whole airbrush is just absolute garbage, and the amount of work it takes just to repair that seal enough to make it barely usable is a ton of work with putty. I've also found that using beeswax can extend its life a lot longer, though the maintenance regime on it is going to be very product and time consuming. This is an airbrush, and there'll be a picture of it with this video. I would definitely avoid. I would stick to the far safer and easier to maintain Heising basic airbrush. The airflow nozzle just really doesn't bring anything to the table, and in the end it performs exactly the same as any other cheap airbrush. Now with their compressor is pretty much the same as the old Iwata or Sparmax piston type, no tank, just a regulator, which is a bleed out one. These are the sort of compressors that was only available for the hobby and industry a good 10 to 20 years ago. There is far more sophisticated airbrushes or compressors on the market now with tank. You would probably find it suitable as a beginner, though you'll grow out and mature from it very, very quickly. I would spend a slightly extra amount of cash if you are shopping around cheaper hobby stores or eBay, and grab a compressor with the tank. The big Heising Delta one is very worthwhile the money. Though if you're looking at the Sparmax or the small boxed ones that has the tiny tank, they're quite excellent as well with everything built in. The second half of H4D1's question: what materials needed to make a diorama? There is as many different diorama tutorials as out there as there are people who build dioramas. Obviously, the first thing that I would always buy is a base to mount your diorama on, nice bit of wood or whatever, and ample amounts of PVA or wood glue to glue the surfaces together. A lot of people go out and buy foam or cork or all sorts of expensive materials, that I find whatever that can be found around the household, junk that's being thrown out of your work, or if you have a workshop that produces multiple things, materials there, you're looking for something strong but light. Normally what I find that there is ample quantities of is cardboard. I like to stack up corrugated cardboard and sandwich them between PVA glue to make elevated ground, earth, rocks, that sort of thing, and cover it with plaster or wood putty or something that's a very, very cheap mass filler that can be dried and mixed with PVA glue. Once you're starting to getting into building structures, little houses or a dam or a Gundam placement or anything that's more man-made mechanical, sheets of styrene. You can buy very thick, very large pieces from vac forming supplies. Wire is really good to turn and putty up and make trees. Foam can be torn and shredded into tiny little pieces or sponges, glued at the end of the branches of the wire to make leaves. There's just a whole plethora of stuff that you can buy from your local store, a $2 store, a hardware store, around the house, and garbage that can just be cut up, modified, glued, and utilised very cheap material and supplies to build a diorama. Just have a look at things in your recycling bin, bottles, plastic, that sort of stuff. Once you start utilising your cheaper material, you have more money to spend on buying specialty things to make your diorama pop. If you want to buy trees, special flock, leaves, little flowers, little buildings, little figures, accessories like barrels or cars or anything in scale, trains, that sort of stuff. Once you're heading in the direction of spending money for diorama supplies and you want inspiration of the sort of diorama you're building, go to a hobby store that has a railway layout or a railway section and have a look on what they have available as different accessories in rocks, bridges, structures, buildings, all that sort of stuff. And if they've got any built dioramas as examples of display, talk to the staff of the process of putting all of that together. You'll find that to be really useful and really helpful. Looking at other people's diorama models, and it's just a whole plethora of diorama tutorials. Wargaming crowd for their large Warhammer style bases and whatnot also have a ton of interesting ideas to create all sorts of stuff. They go both natural and man-made structures, and they come up with all sorts of very affordable and also more expensive options of building very, very cool things, as well as texturing them, detailing them, and painting them. Collect resources first. See what you can practice making. If you've never made a diorama before, use junk you can find around the place. Ample amount of wood putty or plaster, ample amounts of wood glue. Make something, paint it up, look at it. If you're not happy, throw it out, start again. Foam from your when you buy a new television or computer or something, put a little bit of that aside. With glue, that can also do some pretty crazy stuff. So that's about it on dioramas. The final question, which is an anonymous one in private message, they ask, would a moving component, part or gimmick on a model or a diorama for the Gunpla Builders World Cup would make the model win? The answer is no. The criteria for the Gunpla Builders World Cup is your idea, the painting and the construction. And the more skill put into that, the higher your point value will be compared to the other models. And if it's the right choice model and built very skillfully and it looks good enough to go on a magazine cover. That's the sort of thing the judges look for. Once you've got like a little servo motor that makes the model shake, or an arm that's spinning a sword, or flashing LEDs, or a single LED, brings a lot of attention to that gimmick and away from your model. And if anything, there is a potential chance that depending who's judging would be distracted by the gimmick, and that could make you lose out on points, or all that effort put into that movement completely ignored as it's not really a part of the Bandai model. And the Gunpla Builders World Cup experience is all about Bandai and their line of models and the marketing of those models. that would give people a little slightly better idea when they're designing a Gunpla Builders World Cup kit, what would give them the best edge at winning. If you're looking for online popularity and you want to put it on social media and have a little servo motor that makes your model shake or a sword spin or something, that is very, very popular. There's also a chance that the last few models that did that did go viral. You can get a little bit of short-term internet fame from that. Now, the reason why a lot of people ask and think about moving models for the Gunpla Builders World Cup, one of the heats in the United States had a high-grade kit to memory, and it had a small motor attached to the wrist of a kit, and it had a sword spin like a helicopter blade. And that kit either ranked very highly or won. I can't remember. It was just a regional one. Though it did not win the nationals and represent the United States. That model placed as high as it did, not because of that gimmick of the spinning arm, but modelling skill-wise in its construction, paint, diorama and whatnot, was the best model on the day to place. So that award went to the sheer amount of work that went into it and meeting the right criteria. And most likely, as mentioned before, the fact that its sword spinned potentially could have lost it a few points, or best case scenario, it was completely ignored. This can also go with LEDs. LEDs are a bit distracting, especially when they're flashing. That can be done tastefully, but that would be avoided as well. Thank you very much for watching. As always, until next time, stay tuned for further content. We're going to be getting back to making regular videos that are brand new post the Gunpla Builders World Cup. Again, setting up the studio. I've pulled the booth out, all the airbrushes, all the wires, all the junk and clutter. I'm throwing some stuff away, I'm selling some stuff, I'm cleaning stuff that hasn't been moved and cleaned in many years. I'm just going to have ample more space for different type of projects. And I think after September, I'm going to have a slightly different approach to my hobby and just do things a bit differently to keep it fresh and fun for myself. As a lot of interesting things has happened in the past couple of months to the hobby for me. And as I would always imagine, things would continually change for the better in the future. Facebook, I'm active on there, always posting stuff, so put a like up there if anything was to happen to this channel. That is also an outlet to get in touch with me. If you ever have questions, always happy to answer them in private message. Facebook, YouTube, wherever you are, wherever I am, and however it's comfortable for you to do. I'll find that question and answer it. And we are always uploading 2 videos a week to this channel. So if you have any feedback, always keen to hear it. And last but not least, we will do this again next month. So catch you guys next time, and thank you very much for watching. See ya.